do it every day, but when I've been with a bunch of people, like, being there on Sunday,
Right,
I'll test myself again.
right.
But I feel
A friend of mine was traveling, she's older, she went to see her grandchild at college, and she has a very bad habit of touching her face. She rubs her eyes, she's got like a dry eye syndrome, I'm like, you gotta stop touching your face, that's gonna do you in right there. Like, you can wear a mask all you want, but you're rubbing your eyes and your nose and your face the whole time, like, you're touching everything and I'm like, don't you
I
just
do that a lot too.
He's like, "You're touching your face. Not touching.
Get it twitch.
Sorry.
I know. And then my face is all itchy.
Is Jen coming, Jennifer? Do we know?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I know Emily's not.
Emily's not and Janice is not. Linda, don't let me forget to talk to you about after the meeting, the library.
Okay. And I have something to talk to you about.
We'll have to meet at the playground.
I just posted, but that's why I think I'm out of the way.
I wish I didn't know it was so dry. All of a sudden,
You can have COVID. I tested negative.
I love
No,
that.
that's why I'm. Okay, so.
I'll hold it.
Just have a lot of experience and additions.
The reason I asked about Jen is because I have made changes to the PDF and sent it to her, so she could have it to present, so I don't know.
Gotcha. Yes, she did say she should go, so.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you for doing this. Sometimes I print it on the phone, but I didn't know.
She's supposed to be.
Okay. Yeah, let's start, and thanks everyone for being here today. Glad to have one more meeting and hopefully finalize the survey today. So David handed out a copy of version 5, and we're going to go over it mostly to just make sure the questions make sense and achieve what we wanted to have those questions achieve. One thing I definitely love about the survey is that it is 10 questions and not more than that. And some are yes/no questions, and one is just, there are 2 of them are actually some demographics. So I feel like that gives people a really good opportunity to give feedback without having 80 questions. And I think more people will be attracted to filling out a survey that's only 10 questions. So yay for number 1. Does anyone, by just first glance looking at it, have any corrections or questions or clarities?
On the first one, the property owner only, but, I don't quite understand that. Full-time, part-time.
If you're a homeowner but you don't live there, then you're not full-time or part-time, and,
Resident,
yeah, should we say, yeah,
But then
Dave
you
and
want
I
property
added that
owner,
because
so
it said property owner, but that's just land, but if you're a homeowner, like a short-term rental owner, so we wanted to say, so should we say non-resident taxpayer?
I'd say that.
That
Yeah.
sounds probably less confusing.
We didn't want to say short-term, that's all.
Right, we don't want to. No, non-resident taxpayer, I think sounds good, because that's the, like Janice said, what are we going to use with this data? Well, we want to know who are residents and who are just taxpayers, so that makes more sense to me, I think.
does it make any sense to know who is a business owner? As far as the statistics for the analysis?
Yeah, I don't
It
know.
might, I mean,
I don't think we have enough of the big business owners
Okay.
who who live in town.
Well, I told Jen I can recognize her handwriting, so. Hi, Jen. We just started looking at the survey here and made question one, so.
Okay, great.
um,
I have a question.
Take care of his hand.
Non-resident homeowner, property owner, wouldn't that also encompass someone who's here part-time? I guess I think of a resident as full-time.
So, full-time resident would be me, because I live here full-time. Now, a part-time resident might be Sarah, because she's in Florida part of the year. A non-resident taxpayer.
No,
Just an example.
Joyce is the one that's in.
I'm
Florida.
sorry, I meant Joyce, I'm sorry, I lived in Joyce too. So that would be a part-time resident, and then a non-resident taxpayer would be someone who owns property but doesn't live here at all.
Or somebody that comes here for summer.
Describe that?
Yeah, how, tell me, I agree with you, like, how does it make sense to make it 3 separate categories that you would only qualify as?
Yeah, it seems we have several different types. I mean, you have people, obviously full-time people, part-time people, like you say, people who summer here, winter here, whatever.
Yeah.
And you have folks who, it's their second home, and they visit here, or, you know, for some part-time thing. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, could you say seasonal and like investment property owner or something like that? Where
We're trying to
it's a
stay
little more
away from the
specific.
SRT thing.
So then you could say seasonal or property, and then
Oh.
property owner?
Why are we straying away from the short-term rental thing?
Because not everybody that has property up here that has, is a, guy can own a piece of property and have no house on it. It's not a short-term rental.
Right, but that's just another category potentially that we have to cover.
And that's
If we
what we're
want-
I guess I just don't want
If
to
you want to.
also have people distracted by that, thinking, oh, they're just trying to get a hold of short-term rental
Yeah.
owners, and that's not the focus we even want to, I don't even want to put that on here, because that could
Yeah.
open a whole
Yeah,
can
I'm
of
not sure
worms,
if
but.
that's short-term rental or not short-term rental makes any difference.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
that's-
think what's more important is whether or not someone actually spends time here in town, you know, actually, you know, I spend weekends here, like, or whatever.
I like the seasonal
Seasonal.
resident. Because you're here in the winter, you're in the summer. You know.
But should we do full-time and then
See-
part-time/seasonal? And so we just have 2 choices, right? You're either full-time or you're not.
I think this is the best way to go, because you know what, if people just are landowners or property owners and they're taxpayers and they're never here, what use are they making of any of the
Well, they make,
amenities?
be planning to move here
Yeah.
and planning to build.
Yeah.
That's why they own the
Well, they
land.
want to control where their money goes.
Right.
Right, and
And they
that,
are paying.
yeah, because that's one of the questions that we have, is would you pay additional taxes to support this? And if they're going, no, I'm just a property owner, I don't really care about that.
So how about others?
No, I
I mean,
think
if
the
you
part-time.
don't label yourself as one or the other, wouldn't you? I mean,
So,
then you could-
so full-time, part-time/seasonal, and then, you know, landowner? And that way it's a little more specific for the property owner?
Yeah, because how do we address the people that own houses up here that don't ever come up here?
That would be a non-resident taxpayer.
Right.
So we do have the 3 categories still.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow, that was one question.
I guess I suggested to put full-time resident, part-time seasonal resident,
Okay,
non-resident taxpayer.
yeah.
That probably covers it.
Mhm.
Dick, did you have anything else that you were gonna add?
Well, I was going to ask if we could piggyback a specific question on solar, or whether it would be appropriate. The planning board is dealing with solar to try to come up with an ordinance that allows it, but you don't want solar farms in the residential. But my question would be, do people want the town to pursue solar harvest? No?
I think if anything, that
Because then
might
we
be
get in,
one-
why are we pursuing pursuing the fire station? Why aren't we pursuing the school? Why are we, like this, we're trying to be open-ended.
But I think that
It's
that
a
would
good
be
question.
the answer to question
Right.
number 7 or 8. What changes are not occurring in the town of Jackson? We're not pursuing any alternative energy.
Oh, yeah, I would write it
And you would
in
write that
because
in.
I'm concerned, but my idea was really just to piggyback. I don't think it's within this
So we
questionnaire.
It is on number 3.
But
What are your perceived needs for the town of Jackson? Energy needs.
Energy needs, it's in there.
all right.
I mean, it's not specifically to solar, but it is energy needs. And that, to me, when
Do
I
you mean
read it yesterday, the
alternative
data, I was like, oh, that's
Or
solar.
no, just
Mhm.
energy?
I think any
Yeah.
energy needs, whether it be, wind or solar
That's
or.
alternative.
Or
Yeah.
another grid that,
But-
What's that?
better power lines that don't get knocked down by trees.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
Not that that happens. Okay, so I think we're done with number 1, and then number 2, did anyone have any other, I mean, we have quite a bit there, and we also have others, so I think we probably asked and answered that one before. And then number 3, same thing, we're kind of giving a few suggestions here through the bullet points, but we don't want to lead them to everything. We really want to have other. And David, just other is in all caps and one and not in the other. So if you could just change that one to all.
Yes.
For
Kevin.
emergency
Kevin.
services, there should be a split out between police services and fire services.
So it was interesting because he had, David originally had police and ambulance. Fire and ambulance, and then police separate. And I said, why do you have those two lumped and then not the other? And I said, why don't you just put emergency services instead? But we can I would either say break all of them out or just lump it as emergency services, but do you have a thought or you?
Emergency services.
And what are your thoughts about keeping it separate, Linda?
Well, I think it should be separate because you've got a separate police station and a separate fire station,
And a separate ambulance service.
which is the part of Jackson.
So should we do 3 separate? So we'll break that out. Okay.
I know this is a resident survey, but, just looking at the Conway Daily Sun, and there's more talk about restrooms lately, but also I've just heard around here, I've gone into, say, Autumn Nomad. They have more people coming in there asking if they can use their bathroom, and they're like, please, do something, And a few other people have mentioned that, and, I mean, you're probably seeing that at J-Town too, I don't know, but,
All the time.
yeah, but do we need to address that within the services, whether it's, I know we have like porta potties down by the library, but do there need to be some up around here too?
That should come out in the survey.
There's
Yeah.
also one at the falls.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, I hope that,
I hope that comes
I
out.
hope
in the
that comes
survey.
out, but so going back to whether or not we should interview business owners, I think that'll be interesting to see how the people fill this out. And the businesses would love to have restrooms available. I mean, I think it's a given. I wonder if people that have visitors coming to see them say, should I want to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
So,
And as someone mentioned, that is seasonal when they have the porta potties.
yes.
So
Yeah.
it is nice to have maybe at least one area. I mean, I don't know how much it costs the town, so,
Well, I mean, in the winter, they can use cross-country skiing as well
Right,
for
right.
that bathroom in the
It
winter.
is
But no, we have a
more
line on the door,
seasonal.
usually, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and
just
it's
use that.
Yeah.
The autumn, the summer.
I just saw an article that said it cost $1.7 million to build one bathroom in Santa Monica, California. Can you imagine?
But you didn't have like a note like saying, public restrooms,
And
Yeah.
here they are.
yeah, right at the library or,
Yeah.
parking lot,
Yeah.
just to kind of redirect people to.
But I mean, that would be like the businesses should go to the selectmen for
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't gone.
Jen?
So for this number 3 question,
Mhm.
and ranking them, I see, I'm not sure if we're asking about older adult services, if we also need to ask about, like, youth programming.
Services?
Yeah,
So we don't want to list too much because it says these are just ideas
right, but we're also asking people to rank them from 1 to 5.
and their own, and their own ideas, like other ideas.
Yeah, I just feel like if we're mentioning a specific age group, we might be leading.
Yeah, it would seem to me that you want to put as many as you can think of that are pretty obvious. Like, for example, internet's not here. It's a facility that we all use. You know, if it's intermittent like it was today, you realize how much you rely on it.
And what do you contemplate in number 3 by emergency housing facilities? I know that there are certain buildings that are designated.
Like this,
Like
like the
this one.
library and.
Well, but the library is not emergency housing, the library would be a place to go and charge. your
Emergency
rent.
shelter, yeah.
Shelter,
Yeah,
that's
it's kind of a
right.
shelter, like if somebody's house burns down and they don't have family or places to go. Could they come, where could they go to have a shower, sleep temporarily while they find something is what we're thinking about. We don't have any of that. We use this in the winter.
No, and under those circumstances, those folks wouldn't be able to use this facility.
Right.
Correct.
It's just something. to
Emergency shelter might be the better word, because housing sounds like more we provide housing.
I do kind of think having youth services is important though, as well
Yeah.
as senior services because, or older adult services, because we are trying to see how many people are saying, well, it's lacking, and that maybe is why we have younger families moving here, so I think that would be
And I'm sorry,
worthy.
I want to back up to
Yeah.
number 2. Why do you have Friends of the Whitney Center on the list? Is that a service?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
It's listed as a service
It's
on
listed.
our website. So I just went to the website. and
Should we just say
service.
Whitney Center
We
instead of
have said
Friends
Whitney
of?
Center above, so.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that,
Oh,
well,
Friends of the Whitney Center is a
Gives-
committee
right, okay.
that
Right.
we should
Yeah,
probably
it's
just
like-
take it off and just leave Whitney.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it's a
Should
really
check
good
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it goes more
Yeah.
to programs.
Yeah.
I would hope that if somebody uses the Friends of the Whitney Center form.
Well, it's the
they'll
outreach
request
that the
you
Friends
do
of the Whitney
it.
does, but I think people would realize that's just all part of the Whitney. It could be one or the other. I don't think it matters.
I'd say leave it at Whitney Center.
Yeah.
Ditto.
And then there's always Jackson Bridge, which is offered through the library, which I think is different from the neighbor care.
No, that's on, the number 9. For the,
It's a form of
communication.
communication. Is that a service?
Could be both.
Oh.
Information.
Because if somebody has like they need
Oh, that's
patio
something.
furniture, put away for the winter, they send a message out. But we're just, I mean, we always do the other. So for number 3, to be clear, we're adding these
Adding
services.
youth services and changing it to emergency shelter facilities.
Okay.
And then, oh, you were talking about internet, could we talk about like a town-wide internet kind of thing?
Well, right now we have, I don't know, do we have multiple internet providers in town? Do we encourage multiple internet providers in town?
I don't think we can.
Many towns, for example, that are like us offer a community internet service that's paid for by taxes. And so you don't have to have an individual contract, and everybody gets, and it's a lot cheaper. Because we pay retail, and we do that.
Just want channel 3.
Well, maybe you could just call it internet access, and you're thinking, right now you can get Wi-Fi access from outside the library just by sitting in the
Sitting in the
parking
parking
lot
lot.
or sitting on the patio.
People do it all the time at JCAM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Post cogenetic Wi-Fi.
And we have hotspots that we loan out at the library, but I don't know how many other places, let's say, Jen, you have that at J-Town, I don't know how many other businesses.
I mean, some towns, I mean, not even Chicago has literally citywide Wi-Fi. You could be anywhere in the city of Chicago and tap into the Wi-Fi.
So that would be interesting then to see if it was a priority for people, and then at the very least, if it were something that people said, oh, well, I don't have internet access at home, it could be a town communication solution to remind people what the options are for accessing the internet. But I think, interesting, especially as lots of people are working from home.
But what do you need to find out if that is that available, like through Verizon? Like what our spectrum? I have Spectrum, but I have Verizon on my phone. I have no idea, I've never heard of that. But would they even be able to do something like that?
I know Conway has a real issue in the summer. They have because there's so many people. They have absolutely no, on high times, they have no internet available. If you're down there, you want to make a phone call, you can't. You want to look something up, you can't. It's just bogged down. So they need it. Yes.
But there is quite a broadband initiative in the state, and University of New Hampshire put in a very extensive infrastructure in the state, and now the state is trying to sort of mimic and piggyback off some of the conduit and wiring, I'll put it, that is a loose term, that they have done, because our area is so sparse in trying to reach everyone.
Yeah, and when we think of it, most of us are thinking of wired service as opposed to tower service.
Right.
And I think over the next 10 years, the transition is going to end up being to more tower service, that we're going to be using our phones more, unlimited access to your internet, and instead of sitting on a computer at home, it's more likely you're going to be on some sort of pad or phone or some other thing, and you're going to want to use it wherever you are.
Right now, where are they? Black Mountain, I know there's a tower there, but do we have others in town?
We used to last years ago because we would really not have internet access when we came up here, so, then we just made an excuse that someone was using the cell. It's just fun. Like a party line. Anything else for questions 1 through 3 then? All right, flipping to the back. Open-ended question on number 4, what services, facilities have you seen in other communities? And I'm really interested to see what we get here. I think that's going to be where a lot of folks that have moved up here are going to find a good way of communicating their needs and additions. And then the all-important question 5, would you be willing to pay additional taxes? And if the answers are overwhelmingly no, then we need to see how important it is to the town, and if there's someone that would donate the Whitney Center, something like that, or if they say maybe, then how much and how do you explore that? Jen?
For that, question number 5, is that directly linked to question number 4, like when it's in the survey design?
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if somebody provides like multiples, or maybe they're saying, they would be willing to pay additional, but for particular things, I'm not sure how they're able to designate that.
So would we change it to say, would you be willing to pay additional taxes to support any or all of these additional services, facilities, and kind of leave it at that? Because I don't think someone's going to say, or maybe they will.
Yeah.
Maybe if it were the fire station, no, but if it were the school, yes. And so I hope that in their comment box, maybe they could relay that. I don't know.
We'll see that.
I think if you remove the word "this," I think it might be better.
They won't say question 5.
Well, they won't see question 5 until they're done with question 4.
Okay, I
They scroll
see.
through unless they cheat.
I see.
Questions first.
Oh, that's me.
I think it's just a good reminder to people that money is going to make this whole thing. So you can dream all you want,
Right.
but town meeting, when you vote it in, it's the money. And so I think that's a good reminder.
So
You could drop this and just write
That's-
additional services
Yeah.
and facilities.
That's my recommendation.
For the walking, hiking trails, can you just add skiing?
Yeah, walking, hiking, skiing trails.
Since there are over 100 kilometers of ski trails around.
Well, cross-country ski trails are on a separate bullet.
Well, I understand, but
You're right.
For some, like
For
the ski
some.
trail.
Yeah.
Now, taking it back to question 5.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, what I'm wondering is, I think this whole project was generated by the fact that folks in town were not ready to come up with additional funds for a new fire station and for major improvements to the school. Do we want to use question 5 to get at improvements to existing facilities?
I think that is getting too far into what we want to do with this survey. And the reason why I say that is because we have so many things that sort of Tish brought this up, and I think it's a great thing to think about right now, but where we're trying to at least get to a certain point and stay focused. Gray's Inn Garage is, of course, a great example. Do we improve it? Do we take it down and build something new? We have certain standards that should be in buildings that aren't, like space heaters versus improving heating systems and things. So I don't necessarily think we want to get into the repair or rebuild at this state. I think that's part of what I'm hoping we get out of the what changes are occurring or not occurring. You know, like I'd love to see improvements in the buildings, but not necessarily a new fire station for $7 million or whatever. You know, so I'm trying to keep it. I hope we're trying to keep it a little more focused on what our current facilities and services are, and what might be lacking, and then what do you see improving or not improving?
And
Does
then
that make sense?
And then based on what we find, if people come back and say, oh, we want X, Y, and Z, well, okay, so that service might work in that building, but what do we need to do to that building to make it into a better place for this service, as opposed to just repairing it?
Okay, so is that going to be a separate survey? I don't see it on this at all.
It might be for next year.
Yeah, it might be for something that comes out of the answers to this survey. What changes are not occurring in the town of Jackson that concern you? Well, it's really concerning me that we're not bringing the fire station up to code. You know, it's concerning me that we're not investing in the schools' infrastructure that they requested. Or it might be that there's no heating in the library, or I can't remember particularly, but if that's something that someone's very personally close to and knows it, then they'll be able to talk about that. If they aren't aware of it, I don't know that this is the survey we want to say, by the way, here's all the stuff we wish we could do if we had millions of dollars. Jen?
Okay. So just going back to the structure of question number 5, then I think it would be better to just say, and if I didn't hear you already say this, forgive me, but would you be willing to pay additional taxes to support services/facilities? That way we're removing this and additional.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
that.
Because this feels very specific, but not
We
defined.
did
an
make that
additional.
change.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't hear
No,
the
that's
like
okay.
Yeah,
additional
sorry.
That's
should be
Yep.
swept. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, how is that going to be recharacterized then?
It's going to say, would you be willing to pay additional taxes to support services and facilities?
It's a general statement.
General question.
And I'll also put a comment box, so if someone
Yeah, I think it,
15 things above, they can
Good.
list 15 things below.
Awesome.
I suggest then that number 5 be moved down to under what is now question 8.
What if we move sorry.
Or move 7
Don't
and
hit me,
8.
David, but I was gonna say, what if we move 6 down, and so we do number 4, number 7 and 8, then number 5, and then 6 and 9.
Yes.
Did everyone follow that?
Yes.
So
Six
4,
becomes 6,
Follows
8
changes.
becomes 7,
So 5 is 7.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, did that make sense?
Yes.
4 stays as 4, 5 becomes 7, 6 becomes 8, 7 becomes 5, and 8 becomes 6.
Okay.
And if that doesn't make sense and I didn't get it right, let me know if I did that, because I'm not good with numbers, I'm just an accountant.
I just wanted, this is not just on the survey, but it does, I'm glad we're putting a comment box on 5. I mean, I've missed a couple of meetings, so I can't say that, maybe this has been discussed, but I wasn't here, but I feel as though from attending both the school board meeting and the town meeting, the annual meetings, I feel as though the part of the mandate here was definitely, and you're hearing this from, say, the fire department, is, can we do this? When can we do this? We need something. And I think a lot of people in town feel as though part of what we're going to be doing is looking at what needs to be done and let's get cracking. So it sounds like, okay, we're going to find all this stuff out, then we might do another survey. I think that's a bit of a frustration for some townspeople, and I feel as though something, I guess prioritizing, but in this comment box, some kind of prioritization of what people feel. I just think we need to get to the meat of that, because that's what, there's a discussion, that's what prompted this whole putting $25,000 aside for the town to look at, hey, we have needs, are we willing to put money where our mouth is, or vice versa, like, no, we don't want to do that. So, I don't know if we're really getting to that, and I think that's going to frustrate people.
I think you're right, it's going to be frustrating because there are so many people that really, for example, we spent a lot of time on the fire department study, and you spent a ton of time on the school, and we really, like Bill Kelly said in the meeting, March is too late, we need to come to the table with something. We're not going to come to the table with something. We don't have enough, and it's not even the right timing. And we would still have the public saying, I'm still not ready. Our cost of living is, 8.7%. What is that fire station and school improvement going to cost now? And so, again, laying this out with our results, hopefully they'll be really impactful results, and making this the next year to say, listen to what we're overwhelmingly hearing from our survey. I'm not saying we're going to have another survey either, too, because I don't know how much more information you could get from another one to dig deeper. But if the responses give us enough information, we should be able to work with the planning board to say, these are the answers we're getting. The next master plan should really be including the school, because that's where people felt like we were really in need, or new, whether it be a new emergency services facility or a campus, or who knows what we're going to come up with. But we're not going to come to the table and to the select table, here I am, with a plan that says, or an answer that says, the public thinks we need a $7 million fire station. And we're not going to even get close to that information. It is going to be frustrating, because I know some people really think that that's where we should be.
Well, we could, if everybody writes in a better fire station.
Yeah.
We just didn't put it on here to kind of,
That's on
That-
number 3.
on number 3. We didn't put it there because in the previous discussion, we didn't want to direct people. Originally, we weren't going to list anything. We were going to have them guess what they wanted, okay? We have then come back to say, okay, let's give them some ideas. Now, we can include the firehouse and the school system, but then we're directing them to do that. That's fine. But if everybody writes in a firehouse, that would be telling that the town is, maybe the town is ready for it. But if nobody writes in an approved firehouse, that also is telling that nobody in this town really sees that as proceeding.
I mean, the reason the board, we got together was because we got a clear message from the community that they didn't want to do the school and for the money, or the timing, and they didn't want to do the fire station because they both got voted down. So I know there's a lot of people that I would love to be moving forward with the school and the fire station, but maybe not in this capacity, not right now with material costs, whatever. But it was a clear message to both boards to say, the community is fractured, we don't know what we need, let's work together together as a community, join boards, work together with the community at large to say, what do we really need? Take a pause. It's a good time to take a pause with building costs the way they are. You know, the school's not falling down, the fire station's not falling down,
Oh,
you know. There's that.
No, it's just important to have this conversation again.
Take a breath and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
let's see what we, and then there's other things that might come out of this that we can incorporate. You know, like I look at Conway, you know, in between this room, and say, they have a huge issue with public bathrooms, but they just spent how much on that fire station? Perhaps they could have added
a public restroom.
a public restroom on the fire station had they known and asked people, what do they need? So this might be, yeah, we're gonna get a fire station, but we're also gonna get X, Y, and Z because of the tax. So that's,
And then also
Yeah.
to piggyback a little bit on that too, with the facilities and services presentation that Jen and others are putting together, it's gonna be really interesting to see how many people look at that and say, yeah, that's a glance at it, but if you go in and deep dive into that facility, you'll see that it really needs repairs, and that's where I feel like we could spend some taxpayer dollars in improving that. And that's where I think your second level of that question will come in handy, that, and this is gonna get the town more involved in what they really feel and want, not just a town meeting, one vote, one day, you know. So that's, I think we're on the same page there.
My own personal feeling is by excluding improvements to fire station and improvements to the grammar school from this list is like avoiding the elephant in the room. And since you also will have a question that talks about paying additional taxes, why
Why
not put
not?
those options out there? But that's
You know,
my opinion.
I don't think that's a bad opinion either, because they're already out there. I mean, they were already voted down, like you said, that's why we decided to form the committee, because they were two things. So we could make them number 1 and 2, or we could, you know, put them in alphabetical order, I really don't care. But it said, you know, if it says something about fire needs of the fire station, and we could leave it at that, and needs of the grammar school, and leave it at that. So it doesn't say
right, I don't
new
know what to say.
or additional or infrastructure or whatever. So,
Yeah, maybe that's the compromise. It would just kind of quell the questions I'm hearing up there, you know, and it would just, and also I think when you're talking about the fire stations, you have to talk about, I mean, you say housing, but some people in their minds, when they get this, your average resident of Jackson who kind of comes in and goes out does not even realize practically that we have a volunteer fire department. And something should be in here about a volunteer fire department, because if we don't have that, we're not building a fire station if we don't have volunteers.
again, I feel like that's getting to the presentation, and the fire station is a facility that we own, and it is, you know, something in there that it is not occupied, but it is manned by our volunteer fire department. You know, the only full-time, or the only paid representatives we have are the fire chief, and the rest are paid on a volunteer basis when they provide services.
Yeah.
You know, at the meeting when Willis talked about the volunteer. Never said of that fire department, I'm not even getting a survey because they don't live here.
Right.
I mean, that's another thing that we, somehow we have to mention the fact that, you know, most people that work in this town are not from this town. Most people, you know, a lot of people, there's gonna be a lot of people, there are gonna be people that own houses here that are making a lot of decisions that don't involve them at all.
And I
Because
think that's
a lot of
being
them don't support the businesses here. You know, they come and go, and that's what they do, and they're getting this. And they're not aware. And so many people now, I think one of the most upsetting things for me is that no one goes to the post office anymore, except people I don't know. People are getting mailboxes now. They have, you know, they're getting delivered, they're getting mail delivered.
Since
But
you
there are
brought that
so
up in
many
a
people
previous
I don't
meeting,
know
I've been so
that-
freaking friendly
that
at the
don't
post
know.
office. I said, I've met so many people at the post office now. I'm introducing myself to everyone since you said that. Handing out business
And
cards.
because I would say hi to people,
Seriously.
and they look at me like, well, there's no response. And I know they must live in town, they've got a box here. And how come I don't know them? You know, I really, I do, and I find
Well, that is one
that's
thing that we're
they-
also working on through the Whitney Center, is doing like a welcome basket for any new residents. either move into town as full-time, part-time residents or buy property here. The new owners of the Riverwood, you know, I thought that was really neat how they put their little pumpkins out. Welcome Brian and Diane, I think it is, and I just made this up. I think I got it. You know, going to introduce ourselves to them too, and making sure that we do know the people that live here. I'm gonna also answer Jen's question, and then maybe we can talk more about that too.
So just, I think that that's a really good question about how some of these facilities, the decisions we're making, would it be a good idea to also distribute the survey to town employees and town should we include our town employees and have in that first category, you know, employee volunteer, so that we can hear from the people who spend a lot of their time and are invested in our community, but perhaps don't own property here. And that data would be, if they identify themselves, then the data can be analyzed with that in mind.
Yeah,
Or separately ask them. I feel like
Maybe separately.
I was gonna say, we
separate
have
comment.
we have probably 30 town employees that get paid at some point or another
Okay.
as volunteer fire department or other full or part-time employees. So not
There's
having,
18
maybe not
people.
doing it online, but having 30 pieces of paper with somebody's designation on it, employee, and having that turned in separately. We could have a box at the town office or something. I think that's, does that sound?
I think it's gonna be.
Oh, so 50 people. I mean, it's 50 people that you have,
And
and
they
that
have,
have a great deal of investment in the answers to these questions, and
they have maybe have different levels of experience in those areas. And if we're not,
That's a good
you know, I
point,
think
but I
it's
wouldn't
good
put
to
it on
look
here.
at it.
Yeah, I think it should be separate.
Separate,
Separate
hand it out
questions.
separate, done separate.
Yeah.
Because it's a small, you know, you can, and I don't want to annoy anybody by putting it on here, we're asking non-taxpayers.
Yes.
right, but if you do this and get 50 hard copies, hand them out to those people and say, this is where you turn them in, one at the school, one at the town office, and they don't have to put their name on it, but that would be a great qualification of that, and that's a good point too. You're right, they make a big difference in our town, and they maybe can't afford to live in Jackson, but they definitely are invested in helping the town, so. Does that sound reasonable?
Just one other thing about those people that you're handing it out to. I mean, I just look at the two Julies. They know more about this town and what's going on than anyone, and they don't live here.
Right.
So, I mean, the input that they could even put into something like
No,
this.
that's a good point, thank you, yeah, no, that's a good point.
Just to, the question 3, I know that I'm going all the way back to question 3 like you guys. Like to go back, I'm going back to, I can actually put a box next to every one of these if you're willing to pay taxes on any of these ideas. So they could check they want it, and are they willing to pay a tax? Yes or no? Right next to it. So, because that was the question, is like, if I want to improve the firehouse, am I willing to pay my taxes? Yes. If I want to do this, no.
Well, then we're going to put that question later, so,
Yeah.
So, it's okay.
I
but
think keep it
Okay.
separate.
yeah.
Or you could combine.
Find where it is.
It's a combined question.
Yeah.
It's a question that, I'm just saying is that way we would have specific
Specific.
response to, I will pay more additional taxes for adult services.
I think that'd be interesting, but
I'm not going to pay for a firehouse, but I'm going to pay for adult services.
If I can make a comment on that, you know, we did go through a process where we had 2 things turned down. And I have to admit, from my own perspective, I spent more time on looking at what's going on with the fire station, and I supported that. I didn't spend as much time on the school thing, and I wasn't sure about it. But I also would have to say that I was uncomfortable with the ask that was made by the board. Not that it shouldn't be done or that, but I was uncomfortable with how it was approached. And I really don't know enough about it to be more specific than that in my comment. great supporter of the town and the town facilities and what we need, and making sure we have all the things we need to be a vibrant community going forward. And I'm willing to pay more money to do that. And I think that many people will and many people won't. But most folks really want to understand what they're paying for and how they're paying for it, and do we really need it, is it timely, all those good things, which I think to a large degree people punted and said, yeah, okay, we're going to throw this at this little committee. Then my follow-up comment is follow-up to Barbara, what you said something about the master plan. And I have two former chairs of the planning board sitting here who understand the process a lot better than I do. I may be the sitting, but these guys have done it before. And I'm not sure if it's a master plan that we're looking at, or if we're really looking at a capital improvement plan,
Right.
and how this could help drive some of that as the next step if we're not asking to fund anything with everything we're doing right now. I would appreciate comments from either or both of these guys.
Well, I think that the capital improvements plan gives all the employees, all the departments, a voice with, what the needs are. This is what they're asked to do, the police department. What do you need, guys? Girls, whoever's there. We've had one woman officer. The office, the town office, sit down, I'll sit down. Where should we go with this? And they do have a voice. And I think a really important voice in that capital improvements format. So I think they have a place there.
Sarah, did you have any comments or thoughts?
As far as master plan is concerned, that is, it's sort of, well, these are the things that we should be doing, and so many times the master plan becomes one of those documents that goes up on the shelf and doesn't get referred to, even though as a planning board, we should be referring to it as to get guidance as to what we should be doing, how we should be moving forward. As far as, your perceived needs for the town of Jackson, it's nice to know what the general population is, but I think with as Dick was saying, with the capital improvements plan, those are the people who are actually doing the job that they need. And as far as the ask for helping with the fire station with the school, I think what's important there when you're asking for something is that the people want, as you said, they want to know what's going to be done, why is it needed, why is this the best way of doing it. We looked at other ways and found that they are not as good as the way that you are asking money to be spent. And I think one of the things that happened with the ask for the school is that at one point it was said that, well, we want the money so that we can figure out what we're doing, even though a lot of work had been done. And I think this, the way it was presented was a turnoff for some people. So they say, well, I'm not going to, throw money at them so that they can sort of figure out what they want to do. But because these are the specific things that we want to do, why we need them, and this is the best price that we can find for them. So it's part of the presentation.
So I guess on that, both sides of that, I think that brings us back to that sort of 30,000 foot level of looking at this is we're hoping that we get enough input that says we need a capital improvement plan for the improvements for the school or the fire station or whatever building it is. And that's what residents and taxpayers are really interested in. And that says we move towards a capital improvement plan, or you know what, there's so much on the table here, we really need to look at the town as a whole and do another year of investigation that's drilling down on some of the points that we get out of the survey. So again, I think it just brings it back to, we're really just gathering so much information here. Again, it's gonna be disappointing that we're not coming to the table saying, the town answered all our questions and this is exactly what we're gonna do. It's not gonna be that definitive, but I think one of the questions that's going to come up after this survey is, does the town feel like this committee needs to stay intact for another year? Do they feel like this committee needs to change direction? Should it move to the planning board? Should it do, that's not something I want to attack on this, but it's going to be probably very visible after this, what direction the town thinks we need to go and how much farther we can work together. And that was one of the things that our real goal was, to get both of these boards working together so it's not two asks from the taxpayers. So I really feel strongly that we're on the right path here and making a lot of really good changes again and paring it down to what we really, really want to find out.
And sometimes it's frustrating, we have to take a step back before we can take 2 steps forward. So I think as a community, we're just taking a step back, rallying the troops, gathering information before we can then hopefully leapfrog with the information that we have to say, this is what the community wants, how are we gonna make this work? Where is it gonna go? That's what
One
we're
of the
looking
things
for.
we talked about is that at the beginning of the survey, there's gonna be a little introduction.
Yes, Tish and Emily are working on it.
That introduction needs to really hit home how important it is to take part in this survey.
Right, correct. It's gotta be very
It's gotta
impactful.
be really impactful,
Mhm.
and that it really, really means an awful lot.
That's why we're gonna do the post office on Saturdays, that's
Yeah.
why it's gonna be the potluck, that's why it's gonna be in press releases like
Yeah.
we've had. We're doing, it's in e-news, every other e-news that comes out, we have a
Watch
meeting.
for it, watch for it.
So it's out there,
Yeah.
I'm doing the best we can.
And
Well,
word
no,
of
no,
mouth.
no, I know, but it's just, that, it's.
Right.
just
We want to
everybody
get,
that-
at least 500 to 700 back. That would be impressive. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but we have 900, we have ready to count? We have 900, just under 900 registered voters. But we can have 5,000 residents at any time during busy seasons, and our busy season is coming. And with our 50 employees through the school and the town, that, I want to get 50 of those back. I want to get all of those back. And I think that's what, we just have to all work together, communicating how important this is.
Any question on that?
12. Oh, shoot.
On the original document, it would be 7 and 8. Now it's 5 and 6.
Okay, so,
Or we actually have 6.
yeah, so after our restructuring, et cetera, I think that we have some good changes to the first question. What do you love about the town of Jackson? Anything to add on that? I kind of wanted Hallmark versus Norman Rockwell.
You did put that in.
I did.
She outvoted you.
Oh, it's okay. Okay.
Martin,
Yes?
like a less than sign instead of question mark after Jackson.
Oh, yeah, there's a
Yes.
question.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was an Easter egg, I left that there, so you would find it. You would. And then the next 2 questions, what changes are occurring in the town of Jackson that concern you, and what might be done about it, and what changes are not occurring? And, I hope those are impactful statements too. We don't really want to know about what changes do you love that are happening in town, because we hope everything we do is positive and nobody has anything to concern. We really want to know what the concerns are. So they're negative questions, but they really are why we're doing this survey. So I think that's going to be important to see what those responses are. Any questions about the wording of those or thoughts? Okay, good. Done. I didn't give much time to answer.
Moving right along.
Number 9. Jump right in. How do you get your information and news about the town of Jackson? And I think we got them all on here, but if there's anything else to add, I think these are the majority of them.
Word of mouth.
That's other. No.
Like local eateries.
No,
the post
local
office, those are-
eateries, post office, yeah.
I could put a neighbor
friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I just went to the website and see all the ways people can get information.
And then the age brackets, there's a
I
lot of
wish
them
it were
there.
optional.
Hmm?
Wish age was optional.
I'm glad you brought it up, so 70 to 80. I'm glad you brought it up.
Actually,
Jen.
Jen and I talked about that. I did 70 and up, but she said no.
No, I think that was really good because there's, you know, there's different categories. Yeah, good.
Makes me feel better because I'm.
You could do 90.
Further along.
Yeah, now I'm a little further back up the
The
list.
middle, yeah,
Really
there's the
wide.
middle there.
And then the other thing I told Jen that we could do if everyone supports it is that document that we're doing on all our facilities.
Mhm.
We can attach that to the survey, so when they're done, they can actually download a copy of that PDF.
Not attach the hard copy, but the link to it.
The link.
No, we would actually,
Yeah, they could do
it would
it,
actually
yeah.
be right there.
Oh,
and they could
okay.
download a copy.
Gotcha.
And Tish, I know Emily's not here, I do remember that you had offered to help with the introductory letter. That,
Yeah, I don't recall that, but I'm happy to do it. I think you just copy in a trap there, but no, all
Hank,
good.
Hank, do you have that on video?
I did,
something
did-
simple,
Yeah.
some, you know,
Yeah.
you know.
I did update that, the PDF, sent it to Jen, and there's still a number of things. So are we going to move into that a little bit or no?
I was not gonna do that today, I don't have, I asked for minutes, but I don't see them.
One thing I'm trying to get to the bottom of, two things I've been trying to meet with Kevin Bennett, is that, and I have gone over to talk to Julie Hoyt is the one I met with, but the Wildcat condos, which Dick had looked into, and it appears to me, I pulled all the tax records on everything the town owns and have gone through it, that we own the development rights
Right.
for 17 units of
But we don't own the land.
planned unit development.
Right.
We wouldn't own the land, but it's not clear to Julie, it's not clear to a lot of people what that means. So it would be great to figure out what that means.
I'll do my best to try and sort it out.
They have first rights to buy the development rights to that.
Back.
Correct.
They have right to buy it
I
back.
believe they do. I don't think that can go out like to an open bid.
Exactly.
It has to go to them first for first.
It's not a facility, it's a financial asset, it's an asset. It's
But
not-
it has to do with housing, it's a link to the housing for the facilities and things like that. I think when we have all the land that we own as part of this PDF, that if we're gonna say that we own that, is that?
No, we
what
don't
it
own
is?
anything.
We don't own the land.
We don't own
It
it.
really-
It's an asset, it's just simply a right to develop.
So do we take
And
that
it
off?
has it doesn't belong there, it's just, it is just a financial chip, if you will,
Mhm.
that if they choose to, or if we choose to exercise it, anyway it is chosen to exercise, somebody's going to pay for that, the town is not going to develop it. We don't really have the right to develop it,
We
we
don't own
have the
the
right
land
to
to
sell
sell
it.
it on.
Correct.
Not unless we buy the land too.
Right, if you buy the land.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not.
I mean, so it really is like a financial chip, if you will.
Like an option.
Yeah, an option, yeah.
Jen?
I think when we talked about that earlier this summer, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like it would be a bargaining chip that if the owner of the buildings and the land wanted to build additional properties, that the town could leverage the development rights and say, you know, we'll sell these or give these or negotiate these back to you if X% of this new development meets these housing criteria. Did I remember that?
But that's all it is, so
Yeah,
it's just
the bargaining.
words.
Yeah.
We don't own anything, we just own words
Mm.
at this rate, I mean, it's,
It's
They
an
could come in
intangible,
useful.
that's
right,
right.
they become useful words, but if they don't
Yes.
wanna build, then they're useless words. And no one else can build there, so it's it's not like we can
But if-
sell those useless
but if
ones to
they
anybody else.
did want to build, then it would be an asset that the town could use to leverage
Correct.
the types of, and ensuring that housing for potential, people who work in town. You know what I mean? So,
It's in effect, it's a lien.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Bottom line, so we can.
And only on them. And if
Right.
they don't wanna build, it's
Yeah,
useless.
it's just-
Correct.
And is that, I mean, does it pass along to the next person who might buy it? I understand that might be going on the market, or that's what Julie said. So if that person sells that, the
It
property
should
they
carry over.
own
Yes,
there,
they would carry over the property. Yeah.
be interesting.
In a real estate world, if you have a lien, then they also have to, first they have to just close it,
Yeah, because they do it too.
right? And then they have to support it. When the new person buys it, they should technically support it. Otherwise,
have
go
to
back to
pay
the
off the
negotiation
town.
table.
So I think, should we go back to the question though, should it be listed on our properties? And I really don't
No, I
think
don't
it
think
should,
so.
so.
It's not a property, we don't own any property, so.
Water precinct, get on that list?
Yeah.
It
But
is
it's
not,
not-
it's not currently on it, but it will be. We can add it to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good point.
that was I think a late mention last time, and I didn't get it on before the presentation. Thank you for reminding me.
All right, what else? Do you have anything to
No, I
This
just,
is it.
Cover
So-
letter is the survey.
So then we would need, so the way this works is, the team that puts together, that creates the link. If we're gonna do it at the post office, we can do it two ways. We can stand there with a laptop and, or an iPad and have people do it online, or we can have paper and then we can just fill it in the backside.
Can I facilitate a QR code if you need? I think
Yeah.
we should do that. That way, if I'm in the post office, I can just
Yep.
take a picture and just take the survey while they're thinking
Sure.
about it.
and I was thinking like, yeah, pass out, we could put, we're gonna put postcards in all the
Put
mailboxes.
the QR code on that.
Yep, so we'll have all that as well, and then we could have, I was gonna ask Ms. Kathleen to do up some posters to say the survey's out. Like,
Mhm.
if you put the QR code on the poster,
Mm-hmm.
and then just let people know that, to go to the web, to give the link for the
Well, that,
survey.
the QR code, once they upload it, then.
Yeah.
So
Or
if
if
you
you-
send me if you want to send me the link to the final survey, I can create a QR code, email it back to you, and then you can put it on whatever postcards or flyers or whatever people.
So the initial,
I'm
so,
gonna make it tattooed on me. Survey.
so then what we would need two things. One is the message that's gonna go to those that we're gonna send an email to, so they know it's not spam. Hopefully not. And then, once you launch the email, once you launch the link and go to the survey, do you want anything at the top of that to kind of re-explain it again before they start? So there's like two messages that.
Yeah.
So anybody that uses the QR code, they'd have to have that introduction.
Correct.
Well, hopefully that would be the same introduction that would be on the poster for them to download the QR code. So the email is going to be mirroring what's the poster. So the poster is here. I didn't get an email. I'm going to go to that poster and read what the message is about. This, oh, I'm going to download this QR code. I'm going to go with a link. So click on that and then you're on the survey. They won't. Then they'll get that second message because that's going to be everybody's going to see that second message.
I can work with Tish and Emily on those to make sure they're coordinated, if that's fine.
And then we'll-
Rope in Kathleen, if you could, 'cause she's gonna do a
Yeah.
poster.
Can we stop the ballot boxing?
Well,
You tell us how many times you think we need something that way.
well, there's, you can and you can't. For those that I'm going to email to, no, they
Yeah.
won't be able to do it once because
That's
the email is attached to the survey and that reads that email address, it's done. They cannot come back. If you downloaded the QR code, yes, you could because those are anonymous. I don't know who's downloading that code.
So we have this population of people who don't have online, right? Elders, maybe they're not even leaving their house because they're concerned with COVID, et cetera.
You're gonna put a caption box in.
We could, and that's why I say, do we want to do a paper version
We absolutely.
in a
would
couple
pay.
places?
And
In the
even,
box.
I'd be happy, I have my little list of Whitney
Yeah.
people, which is about 30 people who aren't going to be coming out, so I'd be good
We could
to
go around the house.
deliver it with a
And
stamped
pick it up.
addressed envelope in terms of where to send it back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jazz can facilitate, making sure we have those.
Yeah, and I think at the library too, to have paper versions and
Yep.
QR code versions so that people who walk in there might want to do it. Yeah.
So I'll put
Like
together.
an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate, so it's sent to it'll be sent to like mine, but then my husband doesn't get to fill it out because he's a resident,
You can do the QR code.
Right,
Yep.
so that's what, so just, they
Why
may
would-
need to
why
know
would we
that.
send it?
So also they're gonna think that
You have the
it's
same
one
email
for
address.
residents versus residents.
And
NTS.
Isn't it email based on registration, voter registration?
Oh,
Everybody,
that'd be
yeah,
good.
everybody gets them.
Yeah,
voter
so unless you
registration
guys are
versus-
one vote.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's a
versus
good-
a household,
good
right?
thought.
Yes,
Right,
Yeah.
right, so it's based on voter registration email, so you should be set.
you should get two, right?
Although I know some couples that just have one email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also-
I have
Turn that
choices
function
of
on.
the
Turn
app.
that function on.
We just have to, because even as a business, and we, so we just keep our personal on one, so, yeah.
If we don't care about stuff in the ballot box, I can turn that function off. If somebody's email, I can click on it.
So when it's eager to give us their.
They can click on it as many times as they want.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jen,
And the survey guy.
You'd know by the answers.
Well, if you do it by
wait,
the.
Jen's got her hand up, sorry.
Can we, at the end of it, not to, this whole conversation just reminded me that it might be good for us to put an optional, your name and contact information, and if you'd like to be contacted about any of your answers. I know, like, I just took a survey for the strategic plan for the Bartlett School, and that was at the end of it. It's completely optional, but it allowed people to provide their.
Who's going to follow up with it?
You are.
Well, do you want me to send that? I mean, if some of the open comments leave you like something really, really informative, and you go, man, I'd really like to know more about that, then it'd be great to like.
Or very disturbing.
It could be good, right? But I'm just saying,
That's
it'd
what we
be
follow.
optional.
Sure.
Chief Parley?
I don't know.
But that does
No,
get,
that's a good point. Or do you want to volunteer?
To follow up.
I don't know, that's a tricky, that's a
Because the way
tricky
it would
one.
work is would you like someone to follow up with you? And if they click yes, then you give them the option to give us their name and email address. Or do you guys want just anybody can give you an optional name and email address?
I can ask the question so you don't, because that way people that do want to be contacted will. People that don't want to be contacted, you're not going to get a list of 500 people that you're not sure who wants to be contacted or not.
How about go to the select person's meeting? If you were.
Really, I mean, that's what it comes,
I
I'm
don't
thinking
know.
like, we're going to present the results of this survey at a selectmen's meeting in January. If you want to follow up further, attend the select meetings or something that,
Is there
you
gonna
know,
be-
something that, or you know what, I think, I don't want to get that even, I think that in the future, we should put that. The survey, thanks for filling it out, it was successful, we're going to be presenting results at this, and put that in an e-news that's, an
Well, that'll
e-news
be
by
in-
itself.
That's
with
some of that will be in the cover letter.
Yeah, but I don't want to make it like, I don't want to make it that.
like community meeting similar to what we had for the one presentation.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
Are we planning another one of
public
those?
hearing.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
right. That's
I mean,
right. That's
we
what
use that
it
to
said.
Yeah.
Good
Yep.
point.
And that's
I
going
thought it was
to
in the middle, she already had the date for it.
In December 13th or something like
Yeah.
that. I thought.
Can we push toward that?
Can you have it done by then? Are you gonna really have?
No, I think the survey results were gonna be January.
Okay, okay.
And then we were gonna be like the 10th or something, and then the meeting was on the 24th.
Okay.
So we could have like a dry run,
Right.
what we're gonna say to the selectmen. You can listen.
I'm not going to be there. I want to be surprised.
She don't tell her.
Whatever you do, don't talk to yourself. You do, don't listen.
You have to come to my house, fast, Oh, this is good, I feel good about this.
I do too.
It's gonna be. Anything else? Tish, you have any idea, Jen?
This is much better than last.
Because I'd like to get the survey is out by the first.
Yes, that's our
That's
meeting.
full.
I'm going away on the first, so it'll have to be before that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
Are
something
you
I
guys
can
meeting
do?
again for anything?
Not until our next meeting isn't until December.
Right,
Because we're all gonna try and get here for the 13th for the potluck.
yes.
And then we have some volunteers that we'll send out a message for in the next week or so, asking if you want to do some time at the post office. Some people can come just sit at J-Town if you want in the mornings, afternoons, whatever. But, yeah, so there'll be some communication out to see if people want to just spend an hour at the post office.
Meeting new people.
Yeah.
Meeting with people,
See?
survey.
That's right.
So we have that as well. Right? Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate coming out on the radio. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Everybody wait till the audience.
Thank you.
Bye, Nick.
Bye, have a good night.
I'll send something.
I didn't get a chance, I was in North Conway taking something.
I know, that's